What's up everybody, welcome back. So we're on to part 11 of our BattleMechs multiplayer series, and today we're going to take a look at spawning up health pickups for the players so they can actually stay alive a little bit longer and enjoy the game a little bit more. So let's just dive into it. The first thing we're going to do is add a new collision channel for our pickups. So we're going to go to the project settings. And in here we're going to go to the collision tab and we're going to create a new object channel and call this pickups. And the default response is going to be ignore, and then we can accept it. So we can use this a little bit later. Then we want to go to our interfaces, and for our BPI player mech interface, so that's the one that's actually added to the player's character, we're going to add a function and call this pickup health. And I don't think we need to add any inputs in here. Double checking. No, we don't. So the next thing we can do is actually set up our pickup. So let's compile and save this interface. We are going to need it in a second, so that's why I added it now. We're going to go to our gameplay folder, right click, create a new blueprint class, and that's simply going to be an actor. And let's call this our BP pickup health. Open it up. The first thing we're going to do inside of the class defaults is make sure we enable replication. So this replicates. We're going to spawn this pickup through the game mode. So the server is going to spawn it. We're not going to use a multicast or anything. So we need to make sure we enable replication to make sure this pickup actually shows up for all of the players. Then we're going to add a new component, and first of all I'm going to add a scene component, call this the root, and replace my default scene root, so I get rid of the annoying billboard. Then we want to add a collision sphere, so let's add a sphere collision, and let's call this collision sphere. So this is simply to make sure that we can pick this pickup up. So I'm going to increase the sphere radius, I'm going to make it 80. And I'm going to raise it up a little bit. So let me check my example project. I'm going to raise it for 60 units. And then we probably want to set the collision. So we're going to scroll down to the collision part over here. And we're going to say generate overlap events. So that's already set to true. Then we can say custom over here. We want to set the object type to our newly pickups object type. And then we're simply going to ignore everything, and we're going to go to the character player and set that to overlap. So we're only going to overlap the player character and nothing else. The rest we're simply going to ignore. And then we can say query only no physics collision. That's fine. Now we need to make sure that we can actually see this pickup in the game. And at the beginning of the series we imported some particles for that. So let's go to our particles folder, and in here I'm gonna use the Niagara systems. So that's inside of FX Niagara systems, and then the pickup 3 over here. So I'm gonna select it in the content browser, add a new component, and that's going to be a Niagara particle system component. So now it will automatically have the correct component assigned. And in here we want to change the scale, so I'm going to scale it up. I'm going to make it a scale of 3, and then the location for Z should be -60 if you attached it to the collision sphere, so that way it's back onto the ground. So -60. And for the color I'm going to make it green, so I'm going to say 0, 1, 0, and that's fine. So we have a green pickup. That makes a little bit more sense to me, to be honest, but do whatever you want. So now that we have that set up, we can go inside of our event graph. Let's get rid of overlap and tick. We're not going to use those. We're going to use begin play, and this will actually execute on all of the instances of this pickup. And we don't want to pick this pickup to last forever. So after it's spawned, we're going to give the player a few seconds to pick it up, and then the pickup is going to destroy itself. So this is to prevent that the whole level won't be cluttered with pickups, and also to to make the player move towards a pickup and potentially put himself into a dangerous situation just to get some health back. So the first thing we're going to do is add a delay in here for 5 seconds. And let's add a comment here. This executes on all instances because this is event begin play. Then what we want to do after this 5 seconds, make our pickup blink. So the player knows it's about to disappear, and if he wants to pick it up, he needs to move fast. So we're going to use a timer by function name. So set timer by function name. And the function name is going to be pickup timeout. Pickup underscore timeout. We want to loop this every 0.3 seconds, something like that, and then enable looping over here. So we can copy this name, pickup timeout, and then I'm going to create a custom event and paste the name. So this doesn't have to be a function, it could also be an event. As long as these names match, then this event will be called every 0.3 seconds. So this pickup timeout event, all we're going to do in here is grab our Niagara particle system and we're going to set the visibility. And then we're going to drag off the particle system again and we're going to get the current visibility. So that is get visible in here. And then we can simply hook up a not boolean to flip it around and plug it into the new visibility. So this will make sure if it's visible, it will be hidden and vice versa. So this will make the pickup blink. And this actually executes on all instances because it's called from all instances. So all instances, just like our event begin play over here. And what we can do then is add a branch and check if we are the server. And then we're going to give the player another 5 seconds. So let's add a 5-second delay over here. And then we're simply going to destroy the actor. So after 10 seconds, the pickup will be gone. And after 5 seconds, it will start blinking to indicate the player he needs to move fast if he wants to pick it up. So that's what's happening over here. Then we want to grab our sphere collision and we're going to grab our component begin overlap event. So on component begin overlap, let's add that. This also executes on all instances. So let's add a comment in here. So that's simply because this pickup exists in all instances of the game and all of the characters that will overlap it also exist in all instances, so that will make sure that this event simply fires on all of the instances of the game. It's not replicated or anything like that. We do want to make sure that everything we do behind here only executes on the server. So first of all, we're going to grab an is server branch. Then we need to make sure that the actor that overlapped us is actually a player, and in our case we could kind of add a cast in here to simply determine the player class. So in our simple game that doesn't matter, we only have one player class and that will always be loaded if the game is actually running. But in the case you have different player classes for the player to select, for example, or not every class exists in every level, we could test this without using a cast, and I'm going to show you how you can do that. So if we add a new variable in here and call this our player class, and then we're going to turn it into our BP player mech, so that's our player character. But instead of making it an object reference, we're going to turn it into a soft class reference. And this means that this class will not always be loaded unless you tell the game to load it. So it's not because we added this variable. If we add it as an object type, it will automatically load it into the memory and we are able to access it. If we drag in this soft reference, we need to load a class asset before we can actually access the class. So over here it's the dark purple color, and this means it's a loaded reference, so we can actually access it. Now if we have this reference over here, and by the way we do need to compile it and set a default in here, so we need to set this to BP player mech, otherwise it doesn't work. then we can compare it. So we can drag off the overlapped actor. We can get the class from here. So get class all the way at the bottom. And then we can simply compare it. So if we drag off here, do equal to, and then plug this in. This will only be true if this class is loaded and if it's the same class. So if this class is not loaded, it will be undefined and this comparison will be false. If the class is loaded into the memory and it's actually the same class, then it will be true. So you can use a setup like this to actually check if a certain actor is of a certain class without casting to it and without potentially loading it into the memory. And if you're using 5.5, you can also use the is_a node. So in that case, you want to drag off here and do is_a. And we have this node over here. And this does the same thing as we do over here. So this node is only available in 5.5. And later, if you use older versions, you can use this setup to check if something is a current class without actually loading it into the memory. So that's a little side note. We don't really need it in this project, but I'd like to show you how you should set things up. So that's why I showed it over here. Okay, so that was a big story. For component begin overlap, if we pick this up, we want to call a multicast event to actually spawn a new FX. So we're going to create a new custom event and call this multicast picked up. We're going to turn this into a multicast event, and then over here we want to call it so multicast picked up. Then we're going to grab our particle system component and we're going to destroy this component because we picked up the pickup, so we don't want the FX to be there. Then we're going to grab the actor that overlapped it, so that's the player in this case, and we're going to call the interface function that we just created, so pick up health, the message function from the interface, plug it in over here, and then we want to add a short delay, so something like 0.5 seconds, and then we're going to destroy this actor. So we are adding this delay over here to make sure that the multicast event actually is called. If we immediately destroy the actor without a small delay, then the multicast event will not be fired. So we have our multicast event, and in here we simply want to spawn the other FX that is displayed when we pick it up. So that's the floating hearts. So the first thing we're going to do is grab our collision sphere and we're going to set collision enabled. So we want to get rid of the collision on the collision sphere. So set it to no collision. And then we're going to spawn a system at location. System at location over here. And in this case, we want to spawn our NS healing. So select that one and hit the little arrow over here. For the location, we can grab the actor location of this pickup. So simply get actor location and plug it in over here. And then we can increase the scale a little bit. So I'm going to make it a scale of 5 on all 3 axes. That's pretty much good to go. Now there is one thing kind of wrong with this. If we open it up, this is actually a red heart and we want it to be a green heart, just like the pickup that we added here. And we can access this color variable and set it to a green color from our graph. So we're going to use this color 01 variable to actually make that happen. So let's go back to the pickup. We're going to drag off here and we're going to do a set a Niagara variable as a linear color. So set Niagara and then color. And we want to grab this one, set Niagara variable linear color. So the variable name is the one I just showed you in the pickup, and we want to start it by user dot and then color 01. And then we can simply drag off here and make a linear color, and I'm going to make it green and then alpha 1 as well. So now the floating hearts will be the same color as our pickup over here. compile and save that. And that's all we need to do inside of this pickup. So let's close it down. And now we want to go to our player mech. So let's open our player character. The first thing we want to do is make sure that we actually overlap the pickups. So we're going to go to our mesh component and we're going to go to the collision. And in here we will see the new pickups channel that we just added. By default we set it to ignore, so we want to make sure that only for the player mech we're going to overlap it. Enable overlap over here. And then we can go to our event graph. And in the event graph we need to add our pickup health. So that's the interface function. Let's double click it to add it to our graph. And in here we simply want to add health. So this will only execute server side, because in the pickup over here we are calling it after this is server branch. So this executed on all instances, but we made sure that we only call our pickup health function from the server side. So this will only run server side. And we can grab our current health value and set it. So we're going to grab a setter and a getter, and we're going to add 30 to it. So you can change this amount if you want to, but I'm going to add 30 for each pickup. And we want to clamp a float to make sure that we don't exceed the 100 value. So minimum 0, maximum 100, and then plug it in. Then we want to call our handle damage fx function, plug it in over here as well, and we're going to enable our health increased. So this will make sure that any fires that have started on the mech will be removed if we pass a certain threshold of our health. And then we also need to update the health on our HUD. And to do that, we need to know if we are locally controlled. So we are running this server side, and we need to execute the widget functions on our owning client or the local instance. So we're going to check if we are locally controlled. If we are locally controlled, that means we are the server in the game and we are the local instance. So then we can simply grab our mech player controller. From the player controller we can get our player HUD. And from here we can call our update health. Plug that in over here. And we can plug in our health variable just like this. And we already created a function for clients to do it. So we can drag off here and call our owner and then HUD update health function and simply plug in health over here. So we created this function earlier in the series over here when we take damage. So event any damage, we're actually doing the exact same thing in here. If we take damage and we want to subtract our health, obviously we can use the same function to update our health if we get new health. So that's what we're doing over here. Okay, so that's good to go. Now we need to make sure that we actually spawn a few of these pickups so we can test and see how it's working. So let's get rid of this, and we're going to go to our interfaces, our GameMode interface. And in here we're going to add a new function as well, and we're going to call this spawn health pickup. We're going to give it one input, and that's the location where we want to spawn it. So location, and turn it into a vector. Compile and save, get rid of this interface, and the first thing where we're going to set it up is inside of our base enemy. So let's go to enemies and open our base enemy. And in here we want to go to our unwrap hit location die. So this is the event where we actually die. We're going to go all the way to the end because this executes on all instances, and we want to go to the part where we're only server side. So after the server branch in here. And then we're gonna make a pickup spawn using a random number. So we probably want to move this over. So let's disconnect the remove corpse, and we're going to do that last. I'm simply going to right click and get a random integer in range. So random integer in range. from 0 to 100. And then if this integer is less than or equal to a certain amount, then I'm gonna spawn a pickup. So you probably want to set this to something like 10 or maybe even lower to prevent a lot of pickup spawning. But right now, because we want to test it, I'm going to set it to 75%. So we have a reasonably big chance to spawn a pickup, and we can actually test this quite easily. So we want to grab a branch in here, plug it in. Plug in the condition. If this is true, then we want to spawn a pickup, so we can grab our GameMode actor, and from here we can call the interface function. So that's spawn health pickup. Hook this one up to the true pin, and we're gonna spawn it at the location of this actor. So simply get actor location and plug that in over here. And if this is false, then we don't want to do anything. We just want to remove the corpse. So hook that up like so. False pin back to remove corpse, and this goes back to the remove corpse as well after we spawned the pickup. Okay, that should be good to go. Let's compile and save, and then the last thing we need is an event inside of our game mode to actually spawn this pickup. So let's go to our BattleMechs game mode, and in here we can add the new interface function spawn health pickup. That's actually an event, not a function, but it doesn't really matter. In here, we're going to say spawn actor from class. And we're simply going to spawn our pickup. So that's the health pickup. And then we can split the transform and hook up the location like so. So we made this actor replicated. So because we spawn it server side from the game mode, it will replicate to all of the instances in the game. Okay, so this should work. So let's see what happens. We should have some pickup spawning if we kill enemies. And we could actually test this in multiplayer, by the way, but let's test single player first. So there we have the first pickup, and if we pick it up, we actually see our health increasing as well. So that's working. And you can see the actual pickup FX and things like that. Now if we wait with picking it up, it will start blinking, and after 5 seconds it will disappear. So that's good to go. And we actually do have error pending kill or garbage for set visibility. So if we click this, we still have our timer running if we are deleting the function, or if we are deleting the particle system. So over here, when we pick it up, we destroy our particle system component, but this could still be running for a few ticks. So what we could do over here is actually clear a timer by function name. Let me see, we probably want to do that over here. So let's go in here, clear timer by function name after the 5-second delay. And then we want to clear our pickup timeout timer, compile and save. And now we could immediately run a test in multiplayer to see if everything is still working. So let's grab 2-player game to make sure that all of the players can see the pickups and all of the players can actually pick them up. So it's always a good thing to test multiplayer and single player as well. So I'm a client and I can actually see a pickup spawning, so that's good. So we're gonna wait till it disappears, so we actually know if we got rid of the error as well. And I'm gonna pick up this one. My health actually increases, so that's working. Everything is pretty laggy, but that's because my PC has a hard time handling this. But this seems to be working, so if we don't get any errors right now, and we don't, we are good to go. Nice. So we have a health pickup added, and we have a pretty much complete game loop, to be honest. It's a very simple game, but it's still a game, so that's good. In the next episodes, we're going to start setting up our menu frameworks. So we're going to create a main menu, a lobby menu, an in-game pass menu, and also a game over menu. And once we have all of that in place, then we have the basics of this series done. So thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed the videos and hope you enjoyed the series. If you do, please consider leaving a like, because I could use a few more views on this series, to be honest. So if you please could share it with any of your friends or someone you think might like it, please do so. It will help me out tremendously. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Bye bye.